Hello and welcome. I'm Cristina Malita. I'm a leadership coach and the founder of The Limitless Sky, and this is my weekly show. It's episode number 5, and I've called this episode, Are You Letting Your Voice Being Heard in the Workplace? And it's something that has been so present for me in my life in the past 1 week. More than that, but I've been looking at it more dynamically this week and last week. So I really want to share with you my awarenesses and what I've found out so far, and let's see how it can support you as well in your journey. So let's dive right into it. So voice, letting your voice being heard in the workplace and in life in general. So what do I mean by your voice? Aren't you using your voice when speaking? Of course you are. But what I'm talking about is actually your message, your truth. What somewhere deep inside of you, you know it's possible, something that you're aware of, yet you haven't been willing so far to let that out, to speak your truth. Or maybe you have been speaking it, but not at the volume, not at the level that you could have. And I believe more than ever, it's a good time to start talking about letting our voices be heard in the workplaces that we're in and in the world. Why? Because I know you, right? If you're watching this video, you're somebody who is seeking for something greater than what we have already on the planet, in our lives, in our workplaces, and you're aware that something else is possible. And I'm so sad to see our planet burning, to see what's going on in our politics, what's going on with the economy. There's so much going on the planet right now, and that's because people that are mostly ego-driven are speaking out loud. They're not holding back, right? They are very visible. They are very loud in the world, and unfortunately it's not creating a sustainable future for us and for the planet. So more than ever, I believe it's time for you and me and all the seekers on the planet to speak up and to let the world know that something else is possible and actually create that in the world. So I just wanted to put that out there. And getting back to your voice, obviously the voice is a tool. We have the vocal cords, we speak all the time, we use them, but the words that come out, are they aligned with what you know it can be, possible in your team, in your work, in life in general? And I had to really look at that, and what I got, it was that no, I don't, or very little, I let my truth out, because I had so many beliefs around it, so much conditioning, so many points of view that I will be heard and I will be judged and people will somehow mock me, or that it will be so vulnerable for me that it will hurt. Whereas the other ones, right, the people that are so vocal in the world right now, they don't have any of those thoughts, right? Because they're so vocal, they're like outgoing. And the other things that I realized is that as a young girl growing up, I was always told what to do, what to say, how to behave. So even though as a kid, I bet I expressed my voice, I expressed what I wanted, I expressed my truth, my curiosity, my creativity in the world, because I grew up in the family that I grew up, and the society and the schools and the teaching system and all of that. I realized, looking back into my childhood, that was tamed down, right? That was put down. I was copying the way my parents speak and the way they relate to others and to life. And then I went to school, and all they did there was to teach us ideas and knowledge, information from other people. But I wasn't probably ever, after 2 years old, led to explore my voice and what's true for me, and what do I want to create, and what do I want to do as a kid and as an adult later on. So what I realize is that, yes, I do use my voice. Of course I'm using my voice, and I speak to you and I speak to lots of people. But am I actually expressing what I know inside of me to be true? How I know I can contribute to the world? Well, lately I've started doing more and more of that, but I know in relationship to my bosses, to other managers, to stakeholders, to clients, I was not speaking up. So that's something that I'm addressing, and I invite you to look at in your life as well. And maybe it's starting with some reflection or some journaling, and look at, is there something inside of you that wants to come up, wants to come out, that wants to be created through you, wants to be communicated in the world? Do you have a message for the world, for your team, for your clients, for the other people in your life? Is there a message that you haven't been telling? And if yes, what will it take? What will it take for you to start communicating that into the world? I want to share with you an exercise that actually my coach gave me, because I realized I don't maybe even know what my voice is. What's that I want to express into the world? How would I, if I were to use my voice, talk about these things, whether it's leadership, or whether it's becoming a better manager, or whether it's leading your life in a different way, or about the mind, or any topic that I'm passionate about and that I want to talk about. So if I were truly using my voice, what words would I pick? What words would I choose? I don't know. So the exercise that my coach gave me is to write 3 pages every morning in my notebook about anything. So my task is to wake up in the morning and write 3 pages of anything and everything that's on my mind, anything and everything that's present for me, even when I don't know what to say, even when there's nothing on my mind. So I started playing with this a few days ago, and it's strange. I have to admit that it's a bit strange. Why? Because sometimes indeed I don't know what to write, and it's like, oh, 3 pages, and maybe I wrote 1 page and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to write next. Or sometimes I realize I have so many things to say, it will take me like 2 hours to put them all on paper, and then I'm like, oh no, I don't have that much time. So the idea of this exercise is to start digging for your voice, and I'm doing that. I took on the challenge of doing it, to start digging for my voice, because I know it's important, and I know there's a message out there, and I want to find my own words for putting it into the world. So if this exercise resonates with you, I invite you to do it as well. 3 pages every morning for 3 months, and then let's see what happens. The other exercise that I've started doing is actually this weekly show. Right? So showing up on camera every week, talking about something for like 20 minutes, it's been interesting, because I'm not a very talkative person. I noticed I'm a great listener. I like to listen to other people. I get curious, but when it's my turn to talk, I maybe I consider I don't have so many things to say, which might be a belief, right? So it puts me in a position where I need to confront my fears, I need to confront my beliefs. So maybe showing up on camera, showing up on video, even if it's a video to your best friend, can be a way in which you practice your voice and you start digging for your words, for how you would express things in the world. So I wanted to put that out there. So now let's take this a bit more into the workplace, right? Because this will show up in every aspect of your life, but let's look at how do we show up in the workplace, in meetings, whether it's with your team or your boss, managers, or your board of directors, if you're higher in the, higher up in the company. Are you speaking up? And how are you communicating? This is so important again, because in companies there are very different type of people, like in politics, right? There are those who are really loud, who maybe they don't have much to say, or there's not much essence, yet they're so loud and they're so confident in speaking up that they get what they want and what they ask for. And maybe it's not the best for the employees or for the company or for the effects of those things in the world. So again, let's speak up. I believe it's time. And I remember, I think it was like 2 years ago, this is a short story I want to share with you as I find it relevant. I've always worked very close to the CEO of the company. And he's a brilliant leader, manager, salesperson, really strong leader. So I always put him, this is something that I've realized later on, I put him on a pedestal. I've learned so much from him. He was my mentor, he was my teacher in so many different ways. So in my mind, somehow he was on a pedestal. So what I realized was that even years later, after I improved my skills and I grew to become more confident in what I was doing, I wasn't speaking up. I always saw him on a pedestal, and somehow I was afraid to speak up, right? Even though when maybe I had something to say which was different than what he was saying, I was rarely doing that. I realized I was still in the mentality of, I'm a, maybe an apprentice or a, junior professional, and I don't have so much to say, because that was the relationship between me and him when I started my career. But that was not the case anymore. So it took me some reflection to realize, I put him on a pedestal, and and I'm functioning from this mentality of I'm an apprentice, I'm a beginner still years later, which was stopping me from actually sharing what I knew. And it was really hard, and it was really vulnerable for me to look at this and take him off the pedestal. But once I've done that, I was able to see myself almost like a partner, right? Like somebody who has so much to add, somebody who has informed opinions and can bring arguments to the table, and a person who's aware of what's going on with the team, with clients. And he appreciated so much me doing that. It was so awesome to see the effect that it had in the team, in my life, with clients and so on. So I'm sharing this story because I invite you to look at where and who have you put on pedestals. Who have you put on pedestals in your team, in the company you're in? Sometimes people who have roles, right, like CEOs or the VPs or the board of directors or whoever it might be, have you put them on a pedestal? And in relationship to them, where are you? Are you less than them? Are you more than them? Are you equals? What's your perspective? How do you behave? How do you relate in relationship to them? And this is the moment where you get to be very, very honest with yourself. And that's the only way you will create a breakthrough. So if you have put people on a pedestal, that's okay. It's not a reason to judge yourself. You don't have to go into judgment. You just have to acknowledge it. And is it time to take those people off the pedestal? Are you willing to do that? What would happen if you took them off the pedestal? Would your impact increase, expand? And if you get a yes, if you intuitively know that it's a yes, then are you willing to take them off the pedestal? So how does speaking up in meetings and letting our voices be heard looks like, or can look like? And this is particularly relevant in meetings that, or with people that maybe we've put on a pedestal, right? That might be a bit out of our comfort zones. So whether that's a meeting with the board of directors, if you're at that level, or if it's a meeting with the CEOs or the C-level people, the VPs, the directors, or some meetings with clients. So some meetings that are not your regular meetings with your team, where you're invited to have a contribution, to speak up and contribute to the meetings. So I've noticed myself a lot, and I've noticed and worked with people on these topics quite a bit, and especially I see in us women showing up differently than most men in these type of, let's call them more important meetings. And I believe that's part of our, conditioning, or part of our beliefs as women, that, we are not so vocal, right? That the conditioning that makes us be not as confident and not as direct or as present in the meeting as maybe our male colleagues. So let's talk a bit about that. And only the scope of this is to bring awareness to where you're functioning from, so that you can choose something else if you want to. And this is only the beginning of the conversation, and probably we'll do some more videos on this if you're interested and you have questions. So again, I invite you, when you're in this type of meetings, to check in with yourself, like what's going on for you on the inside. What are the thoughts that come up to mind? If you're not as comfortable as in other meetings, what's beyond that? What makes you uncomfortable? If you have to make a presentation, maybe in front of the directors, what's going on in your body? What is your body telling you? The body has a lot of awareness. So if you were to listen to your body, what's going on? What's going on the inside? And this is a way for you to become aware of where you're functioning from. So in these meetings, do you let your voice be heard? Or are you mostly quiet, listening, taking notes, not saying much if you're not being asked, giving not too much feedback, not too much input? How are you behaving in this type of meetings? Because if you're holding back and you're not asking maybe some smart questions, or you're not bringing your voice to the table, it means that you're not having the impact that you could have on your organization, on your team, and on the results of the organization. And what I realized, and this was so interesting for me, because I got challenged by a manager I had, a female manager, to speak up more. And I got this reflection, hey Cristina, you're, especially in important meetings or in meetings where we have a bunch of CEOs or important clients, you don't speak up as much. You don't ask your great questions. So why do you do that, right? We as women, especially at some level, we get fewer and fewer. So we need to speak up. It is in our duties to do so, and I wasn't, right? So that was a great reflection, and in a way, she pushed me to be more proactive, to engage more with the people on the calls, in the meetings. And what I realized afterwards is that has an effect, that has an impact, that the things that I acknowledge, that I say, the questions I ask can lead the conversation in a different direction than before. So what gift can you be that you're not acknowledging, that if you would acknowledge it, would create totally different results for you, your company, your team, your organization, and your clients? Are you refusing to see what the gift your contribution can be? And if so, will you be willing to let go of all the beliefs, all the points of view that block you from seeing your the gift that you are? So I believe I'm going to stop there. There's way more to say about this, and maybe we will in a future video. So in terms of meetings, become aware of where you're functioning from. Become aware of where you're speaking from. Are you speaking solely from your mind? So do you go in your mind when you ask questions or when you make a presentation, or are you actually down in your body? Are you connected to your body as well, or are you just in your mind? So another aspect to pay attention to. What are the beliefs that are going on for you in these type of meetings? And are you speaking up? Are you waiting for permission? Are you waiting for somebody to ask you a question so that you speak up? Or do you voluntarily do that? Do you proactively contribute? Do you get the gift of you and the gift of your questions, your contribution to a meeting? Do you get the impact that those could have? Start looking at that, and I would love to hear from you. If you have more questions, please send those to me. And until next time, don't forget, if you're not already in the group, to request access to our free LinkedIn community. It's the group is called the Conscious Leaders Club, in which we gather as leaders to have more of these conversations and to support each other on these journeys. So until next time, have an excellent day, and again, remember to dig for your voice and let the world hear it, because we need it so much. Take care. Bye bye.